Well, I think also it's interesting the points from Deutsche Bank saying they're not really interested and they're just standing on the sidelines because I think what they want is basically no change. And so I think they're waiting to see what happens between UniCredit and against the sort of German government, and that's kind of is how it's playing out at the moment. Now, the German government say it's been an opposition. They've kind of we've heard comments here and comments there. But they've also said in the past that they want a one single currency, one single market across Europe, and so that means one level playing field. Banks should be open to be acquired. So they need a proper reason and a defence why they don't want Commerzbank to be acquired, and we haven't really heard that yet.
Yeah, exactly. So if we play that out and UniCredit continues to be aggressive and to make overtures, maybe it goes hostile. Do hostile takeovers of banks work on this level?
Typically not. Exactly, that's the point. And actually, Mr. Osell has been very clear on that. He said he doesn't want to go down a hostile route because there are also problems. You need the management on board. You need to. Commerzbank is actually doing quite well at the moment. It's had a very bad track record over the last decade in terms of poor profitability, but that's risen very sharply recently. They want to keep the management on board. They want to expand the business. They know who the contacts are. So going hostile and losing the management is the last thing they want.
So what does this mean for the equity outlook for when you're looking at Commerzbank and its stock, and especially when it comes to its earnings outlook as well?
I think very difficult because, the Commerzbank share price is about 25% higher today than where it was before UniCredit started making its advances. So if nothing happens, then you would assume the share price would fall back down towards that level. That's therefore basically the higher price today implies that there is some expectation that this bid deal is going to happen. So it's in play. But there's a lot of hurdles still. If the German government don't want it, they can block it.
So if they don't want it, they can block it. What does Commerzbank pitch then to shareholders? Because shareholders still get, here in the U.S. at least, shareholders would be like, you have to explore it because it might be good for us. I don't really know how that works over in Germany, for example. But what would be their defense to shareholders say, guys, this deal wouldn't work?
Well, there's a slight nuance there. Basically, they don't have just for shareholders; it's for stakeholders in Commerzbank. So that does include the customers, the staff, as well as, of course, the shareholders. And the shareholding, yes, is the most important, but you need to consider the whole situation, not just the shareholder point of view. But yes, certainly, if you think the share price would do much better, it's better you have a much bigger and stronger bank, then they should recommend the bid.
So when it comes to UniCredit's excess capital, how does that potentially enable certain strategic options?
Well, simply because you've got the money on the balance sheet. So from UniCredit's point of view, it's actually a bit of a negative because that obviously weighs on your own returns if you're sitting with excess capital. So they want to put that to good use. So they want to know, can they do it? Can they build up their position in Commerzbank, or should they be looking elsewhere? So the last thing they want is for this to, Mr. Osell has been saying they're very relaxed in terms of the timing. They're very patient, but he doesn't want to wait too long because therefore he's got to hold that money back in the short term. But of course, having that firepower, having that money in the bank essentially makes the hand much stronger.
What do you think? How long do you think that this winds up playing out for? Like, what realistically?
Yeah.
Right, the timetable of this.
Well, I think it's a very fair question, and we can't. The share price is moving and is on the back of it, so we do need some clarity soon. So we need a proper statement. I think from UniCredit have played their card; they want to acquire it. They've applied to increase it above 30% from the ECB. The ECB will have to give their approval at some point, unless they find a reason not to. I should be very surprised of. And then, by all means, UniCredit can push forward, and therefore the German government will have to make a call and block it. So saying you're not very keen on it isn't really enough. They have to be much more explicit at some point. But I think that's we've got a few weeks until that happens.